Hey everybody, welcome to video 5. Finally, I've actually been delaying, really trying to figure out what should the next video be about. And you know what just occurred to me thanks to my buddy Mark? Hey, I did not make a video about teaching in China. Really. Of all things, right, I forget the most obvious thing. What is it like teaching in China, where the kids are, the classes all together? Of all things to forget, right? So one thing to keep in mind when you're actually teaching, or if you're going to be teaching for a particular school, is that all schools are going to be different, for the most part anyway. So in my school, I actually work for a private school, so our English classes are usually done on the weekends. For adults, we usually have some English classes during the afternoon or the evening, but on the weekends is when we have everyone. So I've been teaching kids as young as 6 or 7 years old and up to adults. Okay, older than me. But that's totally fine, right? Native English speaker, non-native English speakers. So that's what the purpose is, to learn English. So far, it's been pretty good. When I started, it was just a bit of a awkward thing to do. It's how can I actually explain this to them? They don't speak English like that. How do I explain what this word is or that word is? But once you get into the swing of things, it's actually pretty easy. We all have lesson plans, of course, so we need to have a lesson plan for every class ready, prepared, saying this is what we're going to do throughout the lesson. We're going to do this chapter of this book, etc., etc., etc. So while we all do this, I've noticed that more times than not, when we do have to work with the book. It's required that you do at least this chapter of the book, and then you can teach however you want to teach, which is fine. But I've realized most students, they get really bored when it comes to the book, and I get bored working with the book, working with the kids. So I'm if I'm bored, I know they're bored. So actually yesterday, one of the new classes I received, my lesson plan was not in my folder. Why? I don't know. Doesn't really matter anymore. And it was funny because my roommate was yeah, the other day I had to do a class without my lesson plan. I don't know where it went. And it just so happened, I don't know where my lesson plan is either. So I had to just pretty much make up everything on the spot as far as the lesson's concerned. I know what chapter in the book I'll be doing, right? And what particular things they want me to teach for this lesson, but there's no lesson plan. I realized that, just from being in that situation, I feel that I and the students actually had a much better time. It was much more fun. It was much more creative, and I think they probably learned a lot more too, because we didn't sit there staring at the book for half of the class, wasting time. That's how I feel. So some schools will allow you to make up your own teaching method and your own lesson plan. Our school does, as long as we at least get through the portion of the book for the day that we're supposed to, right? But there's other schools that you have to work strictly by the book, or strictly by their plan. So I actually find most schools in Japan are like this. The foreign teachers are usually not even foreign teachers. Foreign teachers in Japan are usually a teacher's assistants. So everyone that I did meet in Japan that did teach, they were assistant teachers. They read stuff and just listen for vocabulary, working on people's accents, pronunciation, things like that. They didn't actually teach the class. It was a Japanese person taught the class. Whereas here in China, the foreign teacher is the teacher, and we have a teacher's assistant. So this person speaks Chinese and English, and if you do really badly need to have something translated because it makes no sense, then they would translate for you. But apparently they're not even supposed to do that. They're just supposed to help organize the class. But I think this method is a bit more effective. One thing I did realize talking with my adult students, we were talking about how people learn English in Japan as compared to China. Now, I think a lot more people study English in Japan than China. Well, no, okay, not a lot more people, but a lot more people as opposed to the population, right? So if 45% of Japanese people learn English throughout grade school, and like 10% of Chinese people, or 20% or 25% of Chinese people learn English, you know, because obviously China has a way bigger population. So I can't say more people in Japan, but more people in Japan as accounting for population. And even so, the pronunciation is very, very Japanese-like. You know what I mean? As opposed to the Chinese students, where the pronunciation, yeah, you can tell when some are Chinese, and some people, they just sound like either British, or they sound American, or something along these lines, or Canadian. So they, not all of them, but many students tend to emulate an accent, and say the words according to how they hear it, not according to how it's read. In Japan, from studying Japanese myself, I do notice they do have their own alphabet for foreign words, and it is pronounced a specific way. So if you're saying computer, for example, and someone in America would say computer, in Britain they'll probably say computer, and in Japan they'll say computer. So it's a little bit, wait, this is an English word, but they've improvised it and molded it into a Japanese word that's still supposed to sound the same. So unfortunately, a lot of Japanese people learn English through Japanese structure, through Japanese reading, which it's supposed to make it easier, but I don't think it does, because it just makes it a little more confusing to try to understand when a native speaker is saying something in English, as opposed to when a Japanese person is saying something in English. So like I said before, for the most, it's a fun experience once you get used to it. Once you get used to the kids and the environment, you can really just go in there, have fun, and just, you know, make it a really great lesson. And it's pretty straightforward thing to do. You do have your troublemakers here and there. We always do, right? It doesn't matter what country you're in. There's always one or two kids that act up and don't want to do anything or whatever. But for the most part, I've had a really good experience teaching China. So what I'm going to try to do is at least get like very short video clips of a couple classes and what we're doing and what the participation is like and whatnot, because I'm pretty sure most of you get tired of just watching me talk. So that's going to be it for now. I'm trying not to prolong the videos too much. So if you guys have any particular questions, let me know. I try to answer them to the best of my ability. Take care, guys.